Or, Mikates, page Membase, middle of the first column. Okay, last thing that Rebbe was explaining, that letters, even though they would actually form, the five formations form letters, but letters actually begin in the nefesh. Like it says, Vayi Adam leNefesh Chaya, Targum says, L'ruach Mamalala, which means that they're a spirit that speaks. So he says that comes from the level of Chochmah, and therefore Matat, the angel Matat, ties knots and brings up the tefillas of the Yidden to Hashem, and through that, this is where we're up to now, they bring down new revelations from above, new letters. So he says, if you look at the second column, it's even where the paragraph starts in the first column. And through this, they bring down, through the tefillas going up, it comes down new revelations from above. Tefillah is a request, yirotzen sheyisava b'chinas rotzen, that it should become created a new will, like it was when it reveals itself in Chochmah. In other words, like this. There is what's called asking for a bracha. We say, bracha tefillah. There is bracha and there's tefillah. There's asking somebody for a blessing and there is davening. What's the difference between bracha and tefillah? You go to a tzaddik, ask a bracha, versus you daven. So there's two different things. So bracha means, Chassidus interprets, bracha means to bring down. Vayavrech or amavrech hasegefen means you bring down the vine into the wheat, which you're not allowed to intermingle those two fruits. So what happens is, bracha means, let's say I'm asking for parnasa, for making a living, or for children, for whatever it is. So there is in the stars like this. So up there, it is there existing. Why don't I get it down here? Because I'm not great enough to bring it down. You go to a tzaddik, you go to a Rebbe. A Rebbe is a much greater level. So they're able to pull it down. We cannot pull it down, but they could pull it down. Why? Because they could push it down. They're on a higher level. They can just push it down. We're on a lower level. We have to pull it down. Pushing down is much easier than pulling it down. So but what happens if it's not there? If it's not in the stars, so to speak, the tzaddik can't bring it down. That's why, what's tefillah? Tefillah, as he's saying here, is Yehi rotzeh milfanecha. Yehi rotzeh means, may it become the will before you. Tefillah is asking Hashem to create something that's not there. Therefore, you can ask a tzaddik to daven for you. Also, not only that he give you a bracha, but the tzaddik can pray for you. But when it comes to prayer, to davening, sometimes a tzaddik could do more than we can do, and sometimes we could do more than the tzaddik could do by davening. Why? So the Chassidus gives a mashal. Let's say you want to get a request from a king. You want to get a request from the king. So sometimes, in order to get the request from the king accomplished, you need to send dignitaries and prominent people, and to get it from the king. And sometimes, if a little kid comes over to the king and says, "Will you please do this?" the king will listen to the kid quicker than the dignitaries. It depends what the issue is, so to speak. So even in davening, that's why it says a Jew has to go daven himself. You can ask a tzaddik to daven, but sometimes when we have to daven, Hashem is a little nobody davening to me. Okay, little kid, spiritual, physical, mentally, emotional kid. So then the Hashem will answer. Sometimes the tefillah of a tzaddik will help. There's a famous story with the Baal Shem Tov. There was a couple that didn't have children for many years, and they were told to go to the Baal Shem Tov for a bracha. So they didn't believe in the Baal Shem Tov. In fact, they were anti-Baal Shem Tov. Anyway, the friends convinced her you have nothing to lose. Go ask the Baal Shem Tov for a prayer, for a bracha. They came to the Baal Shem Tov. They didn't want to come, and they made it clear that we're not here because we really want to. So the Baal Shem Tov said, you want a bracha, it's $100. Or whatever, a crazy amount of money then. So they said to the Baal Shem Tov, they got angry. They said, nobody ever told us it costs money. We're not, the Baal Shem said, they offered 50, whatever. The Baal Shem said, guys, take it or leave it. You want a bracha, it's $100. They got sewing at the Baal Shem Tov. They said, the husband said to the wife, let's get out of here, we don't need him. Let's take our money and go daven ourselves to Hashem. And when they said that, the Baal Shem Tov said, that's what I wanted to hear. And he gave them a bracha and they had children. In other words, sometimes you have to, it depends who is making the keli. Sometimes the tzaddik makes the keli, sometimes but the Rebbe said really that every Jew has an ability to give a bracha. In fact, there's a story once with the Rebbitzin, with the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, they gave, they wanted to get brachas from the Rebbe. It was a women's convention. And by mistake, they realized they gave it to the Rebbitzin, whatever. So the Rebbe said to them, it's okay, she can also give brachas. So there's bracha and there's tefillah. And then like he says, what do you want?
Your answer.
Okay. So he says, because what is tefillah? Bakashis yihiratzin sheyisava b'chinas ratzin. It should create a new ratzin. In the achachma machayeves al pi Torah. Chachma demands by Torah, en yisurim b'lei oven, sha'oven geirim yisurim chas v'sholem.
When there is bracha and tefillah, the bracha that Tzaddik brings now, it's in the stars. Where did that come from?
No,
Must be from the tefillah somehow.
no. Hashem Chatchila had it by this person. But the person,
Without anything, without tefillah, without anything.
but the person had to make a keli for it. Now sometimes the person wasn't able to make the vessel for it, so the tzaddik brings it down. But if it's not there, it's not there.
So Hashem stand without a Jew doing anything has a bracha for him?
A Jew could daven, yeah. It doesn't mean Hashem will answer. Sometimes the answer is no.
No, the one that is in the stars, he hasn't davened, he hasn't done anything, he hasn't done anything whatsoever.
So sometimes Hashem will give it to him anyway. Sometimes you need a power to push it down or pull it down. That's what he says. He says now, I'll be techachma, according to Torah, there's no punishment without sin. That sin causes punishment. What does davening do? We bring down a level higher than chachma. And in that case, there's such mercy from Hashem that sins don't mean anything. Sins don't get in the way. Normally, sins get in the way. In a normal routine of things, in a shtalshelus world, in the chain of the worlds, the way Hashem created the worlds, there's cause and effect. There's reward and punishment. You sin, you're going to get punished. You don't sin, you're not going to get punished. But there's a level of tefillah that accomplishes that even if I'm supposed to be punished, I'm still not going to be punished. Why? Because that awakens a mercy from Hashem, such a level of mercy from Hashem, that it doesn't matter if you sinned or not. Because that is, like I said, Rabbi Shachar, you do so many odd, nothing happens. This is what Chazal say. That when the Eden say, Yehei Shmei Rabba, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Menaneh Bereisha, Hashem shakes his head. Now the Gemara says like this, you say Amen Yehei Shmei Rabba with all your might, that doesn't mean yelling and screaming, it means with kavanah, so Hashem shakes his head. Okay? Now, What do you mean Hashem doesn't have a head that he bobbles up and down, you know? What does it mean? He shakes, meaning he brings down into the level of Chochmah of above. The will of Hashem, which is Baruch v'nimshach Shmei HaGadol. What happens is, we bring down the level of Shmei HaGadol. Shalamaylam b'chinas tishtaush is higher than the world, which is Gadol Mulumeid, which is the infinite level. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, what is the whole union of Tefillah, which by the way is atheist, saying the words. If you don't say the words, it's not davening. Halachically, you can't read davening. You know, like you read a siddur. You have to say the words. If you just read you read it, it's not davening. You have to actually say the words. How do we get this Ratzon Elyon? Is by us elevating the letters of Tefillah, the Shosh and Mekadam, to their source. Kasser Elyon matat, through the angel matat. V'hainu, the Fishashay, the Sha'esi, is because the source of letters is a super high level. V'kasser Elyon l'mayla b'chinas Chochmah meichen. Letters, in the origin of the letters, like we said, the nefesh is full of letters, meaning letters are really higher than Chochmah. But whether they come down, in a practical sense, that's in the level of Chochmah. Because Chochmah is wisdom, so you think wisdom through letters. You can't understand anything without thinking in letters. But the letters themselves are not seichel. There's no intellect in the letters themselves. It's only when you combine the letters. Because the essence of the letters originates in the essence of the soul. Tangible letters don't originate until the level of intellect and emotions. But the source of the letters is all the way up there.
Tehillim too, Rabbi, when you read Tehillim, you have to say the word.
If not, you're not reading it. It's like you're reading a nice book. If you want to come to the saying of Tehillim that if somebody needs to say, they have to say the words in any language. It doesn't matter what language, if you got to say the words.
You don't have to understand it.
No, Torah Shabbat you don't have to understand. But if you read Tehillim without verbally articulating the letters, you didn't say Tehillim. And you're not getting the mitzvah of learning Torah either like that. That's the external level. As a seichel to take the seichel. And then it comes even lower to become letters of thought and speech. So he's saying that the letters actually are a process. They're neshama, like this expression we learned the other day. Nefesh mlea asius. The nefesh is full of letters. Which, by the way, in what does it mean what do you mean the nefesh is full of letters? Letters basically limit something. If you want to express an emotion or an intellect, you say it through letters, through words. But that basically limits the actual emotion, because the emotion, the way it comes into letters, is limited. Somebody loves somebody very much, they say, I love you, and they mean it, they mean it, it's still limiting the amount of love that they really have. If you have an intellectual concept and you put it into words, by definition, you're limiting it. So letters, basically, down here, are a power of limiting an intellect or an emotion to reveal to somebody else, because how in the world can you reveal it if you don't speak it? You can do an action also. You can kiss the person, hug the person, do something good for the person. But if you're talking about speech, speech actually limits the thought and the intellect and the emotions.
The speech is not one.
So, 1 minute. Therefore, the concept of letters is the power of limitation. When it says the expression, a nefesh meleya oisius, it means the nefesh is full of the power of ability to limit. The nefesh has a keach habligvol and a keach, but just like Hashem. The nefesh is part of Hashem. Hashem has the power of infinite, Hashem has the power of finite. Neshama has the power of finite and the power of infinite. What's the finite power of the neshama? The power to create letters.
But the speech could never be 100% what the chokmah is.
Can't.
You cannot.
No.
Something is going.
Now, after 40 years, like it says at the end of Hashem lachem leiv ladas v'nayim l'irei, it says nayim l'shmei ad hayem hazeh, koyim min shadai to Rabbi until 40 years. After 40 years, when you come to the level of Bina, so then you can understand, but still not, it's still not the thing. Now there's a famous story, it's late, but this famous story, when the Rebbe Rashab wanted to give, when he was a baby, wanted to kiss the Frierdiker Rebbe, and instead he wrote him a mimer, and then he said to him, when he got older, he gave him the mimer, he said, that's a chassidic kiss. Right, that's the story, and the Rebbe explains what does it mean, because just like Hashem puts his essence into Torah, tzaddikim deimel l'beirim, a tzaddik puts his essence into Torah. So when you give a kiss, it's an external concept. It's an external action. But a mimer, the Rebbe puts his essence into. So the Rebbe Rashab wrote a mimer, and that means his whole essence was in the mimer. So that's a chassidic kush. It's not an external kush. It's a chassidic kush, meaning an essential kiss.
When you learn the mimer, you're connected to the absolute essence.
Yeah. Again, it's like you learn Torah. If it's learned correctly, then yes. Otherwise, it could be malbishit and klipa.
Is after 40 years or is when you're born?
It's a machlekes Rashi and Taisus.
Rabbi, what is that